Hey everybody, welcome to the Multifamily Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Peterson. Today we are still in our Back to the Basics 5-week series, and we are in week 4. So if we want to recap what we've done, first of all, our first series, right, on the Back to Basics was all about raising private money, how to get money into your deals, how to set yourself up. It's the one thing that you've got to get really good at. Then we talked about week number 2 is the secret language, right? How to understand the language of, multifamily so we don't look stupid. And then last week we talked about truly how to get deal flow, right? Not how to underwrite, but how to get deal flow coming to you, right? And how that the relationship is far more important than just getting the deals, because the real deals, the ones that are the juice is worth the squeeze, well, that comes from relationship building more so than just getting lucky with a email that you actually underwrote. So today we're going to dive into a little bit more of the underwriting side of how to underwrite properties, and I'm going to give you some rules of thumb that I underwrite myself and how we do it here at Kahuna Investments, and hopefully it'll give you some insight on kind of what conservative underwriting should look and feel like. So this is going to be a really good episode. You're not going to want to miss out. Just get ready, because we're gonna go in detail about how I underwrite. Okay. So we're just going to jump into it. Listen, we're not going to do iTunes reviews today. You guys keep doing it. I appreciate it, but I really want to get out some of the stuff that I want to talk about today. We underwrite to make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze. And so often what I see is shoddy underwriting, is, half-baked underwriting that, because you can change numbers to make deals work. Can we all agree to that? And some people go down that road of trying to make deals work instead of making deals conform. And I like the conform part of what we do. So we've got some rules of thumb. And this is also what I love about the multifamily space, is it's all based on the numbers, right? Like, we don't have to get emotional. We don't have to, oh my God, I love it. Oh, I love the Nope. Kick that out the door, okay? There is no room for emotions when we're trying to make some buying decisions. And if you ever think that you're getting emotional, I want you to check yourself. Here's how you do it. Imagine you bought a deal and you raised $5 million. And now you have to pay that money every quarter. And my question to you is, are you sleeping like a baby? Because chances are not you're not, right? If you've done this wrong, if you made some mistakes, if you were on the gas when you're supposed to do it a little slower, then there could be some problems in Mexico, right? Like, listen, you do not want to assume anything. It's better to be conservative. How do I know this? Because I've lived it. I made this mistake on my second deal where I, bought a little smaller deal than I probably should have. It was only 70 units. And then I made some mistakes. I hired the wrong management company that was out of state, the property was in Tucson. The management company was in Georgia, and they were really just a regional. They had no national presence. There was no way they could handle it. And that ended up being a nightmare. And then I decided to self-manage. Oh my God. An even worse decision. And then I finally hired the right management company, but by then it was too late. And so for 2 years, I barely made any payments to investors. And you want to talk about a haunting feeling, right? Now, we're able to sell that deal and get all our investors' principal back and just this midget of interest. And, and all the new people, I will never see them again. They're gone like the wind. You hear me? You feel me? Gone. Now, luckily, The other half had invested in other deals with me, and they're like, well, yeah, this one didn't work out, and so yeah, we'll go to the next one. And so there's a big story on capital there. You only get one chance. You get one chance to make a really good impression on how you handle the deal, even when a deal gets sideways. Now, here's the sad story, is if I would have held to my guns on that property when I got the right management company and I would have made and not sell, if we would have held it for 3 more years, oh my God, everybody would have thought I was the hero, because that property would have been worth so much money in Tucson. The market changed, because I bought this in 2011. Gosh darn it. I mean, understanding what I know now, I should have just kept the asset. We would have been fine and we would have made a lot of money. But, you live and you learn. So we're going to talk about a couple things, and I'm going to kind of go over my calculator just a little bit. And I'm looking at it right now on my screen, so it'll help me kind of give some rules of thumb here and what we're going to talk about. And hopefully this does well in describing what you should be doing on your calculator, because all calculators are kind of built kind of the same, right? So we're gonna jump right into it and talk about when you're putting numbers in your calculator. So we're usually going to take a T12. The seller's going to give you a T12. You want a T12 and a current rent roll, and you really want a couple, 3 or 4 months of rent rolls, like backdated 3 or 4 months, so you can see some trends. The T12 is going to tell you what it's done for the whole year, and a trailing 3 rent roll, right, for the last 3 months, is going to show you where it's trending currently. And, because there's usually some stories in that T12. We've bought properties where, somewhere along the line they had, they were repositioning it, or they had bad management, and there's a dip. I've seen properties that we had a property in Yuma that had a big dip in the summer where it went from 100% occupancy to like 67. And now that was because it was seasonal. They put corporate units, most of the property units were corporate units to like Farm Fresh for the agricultural hub in Yuma. So great money in the winter and the spring, but in the summer it was, dead. And that was killing the property because it wasn't consistent income. So the first line that we want to talk about is gross potential rents. Your gross potential rents is what you put down is when your 100%, every unit is rented up. Now, what I like to do is use the T12 here and really kind of figure out, I like to take the rent roll, and then I like to put, for anything that's vacant, the market rent, right? So I use the current rent roll, and everything that's vacant, right, I'm going to use market rents. And then I'm going to figure my vacancy, the physical vacancy, okay? I want to make sure I'm as accurate as possible, but I do want to buy, and I usually have 2 columns, one for the seller's numbers and one for my numbers. Because as I'm trying to proof up what the real gross potential rent is right now when I'm buying it, that's what I'm the one that I'm going to clean up and make sure I know exactly where I'm at today. Starting out the gate, where am I, right? The T12 is from the T12, right? So we have a T12 version, and then where are we currently? Because I want to know, when I close on this property, what numbers am I really, where am I at? Where am I in the continuum? So that's the way I do it. And then we're going to verify a couple different numbers, right? And this is really on the income side. You're going to have your physical vacancy. That's going to usually transfer right over your assumptions of where you're taking the property and where it's at currently, right? That you're getting that from that T12. And then you're also, one of the numbers I think you've got to double check and make sure you understand is the other income line. I see this a lot. Is other income is like your fees, pet fees, late fees, laundry, rubs. You've got to really double check and make sure you understand what is that income line, because I've bought a property where the lady that owned the property, she owned also the laundry, like all the machines and stuff in it, but she was taking the laundry income and throwing it on the side. So it wasn't in her P&L, but it was income for sure. And so, and we were able to see that. by asking the question, like, hey, where's the laundry income? And it wasn't in there. And so once we found it out, we put it in our model for where we were going to do it, and it made the deal work even better because it wasn't represented in the T12. Her mistake, not mine. So, but you want to make sure you are checking and understanding that the income side. So you want to verify, like your job is to verify the income side. Now we're going to move to expenses. Now, here's where it gets really, I think, a lot easier. And these are the kind of my rules of thumb that I like to use in my initial underwriting. And then as I get, we have version, 1, 2, 3, as we keep making changes and getting and informing our calculator, in other words, getting better and cleaner data, we make different versions because I want to see where I started and where I ended up based on data. Okay, we don't make changes because of the way we feel. We only make them based on real data. So here's what I think you should be using as like real rules of thumb for your expense side. We're going to start with salaries, right? Salaries. I budget $1,285 per unit for salaries. That's a little bit on the high side. I used to do $1,100. I've bumped it up to $1,285. I believe inflation's coming, right? Now, and plus I want to make sure I have plenty of money to make sure I hire great people. So I know I'm in the people business. And if I can attract not just a good person, but a rock star sales manager or, property manager that has great sales ability and leadership ability, I'm willing to pay him a little bit more because that's going to make my property gold. Solid gold. You hear me? That's it. And so I budget that because I really want to find great people. And I think you got to pay them. Not always. We also, now this is me coming in to my first pencil. After we do this, we will look and see what is the market in this. And here's the other part about your salaries and related. I know we figure it by door, but sometimes you got to go back and do it like this. Well, how many people am I going to need, and what's their salaries going to have to be? And get the number that way. Because if you're right at 100 units and, you need 3 people at your property, you may be real super tight at, $1,100 a door. You could be. Maybe not. And then maybe you just say, hey, it's 2.5 people, right? 2 full-time, 1 part-time, something like that. But $1,285 is a real good rule of thumb. So then we go to the next line, advertising and promotion. I think your advertising and promotion, we have started to increase this a little bit. We're starting to do a lot of geo-targeting. We do this, more importantly, we actually raise this number. So for student housing, okay, for student housing, we make our advertising and promotion number $350. Right? So we want that number to be $350 because we can truly geo-target the school and then send ads to each and every student that walks into that building. So that's using some ninja stuff. All your people are right there. We just figured out a way to market to them in a way that makes sense. Okay? So $200 for your advertising promotion, $350 if it's student. Maintenance, right? Now I'm talking about your 1970s, 1980s, early 1980s building. Maintenance is about $800 per door. But if it's student housing, we make it $950. Why? Because students tend to put more holes in walls. Like that testosterone runs. And so we have more drywall repair, I think. And they break stuff. Now, the good thing about students is mom and dad usually guarantee all this stuff. And so when they break stuff, we just get their deposits back. But still, it's still just a bigger cost of, you got a lot of kids in there. Every bedroom's filled up. So, $950 is a better number to have for maintenance. $800 per door if it's just a regular door. Office admin. Okay, that's for like your real page, your office equipment, your toner, stamps, all that stuff, right? We usually figure about $150 per door. That's our standard underwriting. Then we go into management. So management, we always figure as a percentage of collected income. And we pay a 4% management fee. And then I take a 2% asset management fee. So we put 6% in our line. Okay, that's what we're doing. And by the way, it's really important that you pay yourself 2% as an asset management fee. Really, as you start this business, someone has to be in control and in charge and making decisions. And really, you deserve this income, that 2% you deserve, because as you nurture and you're going to start building your business, that's going to be how you pay for some of your staff just to have a normal operations. So you're not doing it at all. So when one investor calls Sally, that's like, hey, man, I didn't get my K1. It's not working. I can't jump online. You want your assistant that you hired to be able to handle that. You don't want to have to handle that. So and then the software that takes to run like a portal, right? Like we have our Kahuna portal, an online virtual portal where our investors log into to see their stuff. Well, who manages that portal? My admin. Okay, so that's what that extra 2% goes for, and you should be using it. Next is we have a security line. I don't normally put money in there unless I see it on the other side. So we have a line there, but we don't normally use it because we try to put a maintenance guy or a manager on site at every property. That's something that we tend to always do, is at least have one unit down, and it's for that. Okay. Now, then we get to utilities, and this is where a lot of people don't quite get the mustard. So you got to, especially if it's like student housing or something that's all bills paid, right? This is where a lot of newbies make mistakes, and I'm gonna point it out to you. In the utility line, if you are in an all bills paid or like student housing where it's still all bills paid, and you're running 80% occupancy, if you go to 95% occupancy, your utility bill is going to go up from what it was in the T12. And so this is a mistake that I've seen a lot of people make, is they don't underwrite that. And so guess who's left holding the bag when that happens? You, my friend. You, and your income just went down. You took a big hit because you weren't smart. So you got to think about these things, right? This is because if your marketing plan, a business plan says, hey, in year 2, we're going to be at 95%, and the utility line was based on 85% in that T12 that you got, boy, you better expect to put some increase, a 15-20% increase in that utility bill, and add it for your utility line, because that's what you're expecting to happen. You got to make sure it happens, right? So that's one of those lines that you really got to verify. And this is one that's, I believe you should look at the actual bills. So when you go under contract on this particular property, you are going to really analyze the utility bills to understand what utilities really are on a month-to-month basis. You should be able to clearly see this based on the current occupancy. So you match those things together, and then you can get a real good roadmap where you're at. And the next thing is taxes. And taxes, you've got to figure out taxes. And the easiest way I know how to do it is to take 80% of your purchase price of your the price you're going to pay for it, take that number, 80%, and times the mill rate. Now, there's typically sometimes in some cities, a city and a county mill rate that you have to add for taxes. And you can usually ask someone at the tax assessor's office to help you figure that out if you can't figure it out on your own, okay? But that's how you figure out the taxes, and because it's usually not, your tax line's not going to be what the seller has. Now, it will be for the first year, because usually you're not assessed till the second year of operations, right? So we actually make that tax line change in year 2 to what it currently will be, right? So that's another just little tweaks, because that's the reality. Okay, so that pretty much gets us through the expense rules of thumb. So now let's jump into kind of some other little things that I think you should know about. Okay, so property financials. This is what reserves per door. I have on my calculator the reserves per door standard at 250. But here's the reality is the bank is going to tell you what they need for their reserves per door. They're going to give you this number. And you need to, when you get closer into closing your deal, you are going to inform your calculator and put this real number in so you know what it is before you hopefully before you go out and make your marketing packet, right? You should have a pretty good idea of what your lending conditions are going to be, okay? Again, I told you about the 6% management fee, 4% for me, for management company, 2% for me. Another line item that we try to put and make our deals conform is an acquisition fee. We put a 4% acquisition fee in our underwriting, and we typically, that's our standard. Now, will we lower it? Yes, we will. I think the standard is 2, and we just said, can we double it? And the answer is yes. We get a 4% acquisition fee on almost most of our deals. I would say 90% of the deals I've done, I've been able to get a 4% acquisition fee. People don't tend to care as long as they're making money, right? And so why do I take a 4% acquisition fee? Because that's what keeps my lights on. That's how I make, as the syndicator, that's what you got to do to pay your team, your salaries, and to have a sales department and have an acquisition department. This is what we do to fund our business to make sure that we can keep growing for investors. And 4% makes it grow really good, okay? Now, will we make it 2 or 3 if we have to make the deal work? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I've always learned this is pencil what you want to happen, and you'll find deals that fit in that pencil. And so we've always made our deals conform to the way we want to buy them, rather than vice versa. Now we can always slide that scale because it's money that we can give up if we have to, but we don't like to and we don't try to. Okay. Loan origination fees. I just keep it at 1% as a standard. I think you can get it for 0.75, 0.65. If you've got a good loan originator, he'll cut you a break if you keep doing multiple deals with him. Title costs, I usually keep at 1% of the total loan value, right? That's usually actually overkill, by the way. But it gives me, I call it cushion. I like lots of cushion when I do deals, that money that I wasn't expecting that just is there, because when we fully fund, it just gives me enough room for an oh crap moment. And no one likes to get stuck in that. So that's a great way to kind of just get through that. All right, so now I'm going to move over to what I call first mortgage information. And we're currently underwriting at 25% down, unless it's a smaller market, and then we'll go 35% down. We'll always ask for 80% leverage if we can get it from a bank, but our normal underwriting guidelines are at 25% down. Our current rate that we're using is 3.5% for interest. And that's changed over the time. So it used to be 5, but with our current rate that we're structured now, we've set it at 3.5. But here's something that we do that's just kind of a small tweak, but it seems to kind of work, is we make our AM term to 25 years, never 30. And why does that matter? I don't know. I just find that by cheating a little bit that way, instead of saying, I know we can get a 30-year AM, but to make it a 25-year AM just makes us a little more, it's a nice little conservative touch, not a lot, but again, it screams that we're just trying to be a little bit conservative. And these are our initial underwriting metrics that help us determine if a deal is, worth the flight and the travel. Okay, so I think this is truly valuable. So put your term in your amortization schedule to 25 years. And then you keep that standard. Like, we don't ever change it. When I open up my calculator, that's where it starts. And that's pretty much your financing. Now, we also have a bridge financing component. So interest only, that's a big thing lately. All the banks are giving interest only. So we have a feature that does that. And then we go into closing costs. So what do you underwrite for your closing cost? So here's some you have your down payment, your title cost, that should automatically figure at that 1%. But here's some costs that are not usually, that you got to make sure you kind of put in somewheres, is your legal cost. And I usually tend to put $20,000 for legal. It's going to cost me $10,000 to $15,000 for a PPM, and then at least let's say I get my PPM at 10, and then I figure it's another $10,000 for my legal to write PSAs and purchase and sale agreements and, redlining and loan docs and things like that. So that's what I usually believe it takes to get me to the table to close. And then I also include a due diligence fee of $10,000. This is money that I'll normally pay my management company to do a very detailed analysis, walkthrough of each property then when we buy them, right? It's our due diligence model, and I pay for it. I don't like getting things for free because then you can't demand and expect. I like to demand and expect. And so I pay my management company, even though they're the same ones going to be managing it, I pay them $10,000 for this. I feel like it's good. I'd rather pay because then I can make expectations and demand what I want, how I want to see it, how I want to receive it, and they have to do it. I think that's important, right? The ones that say, hey, we'll give it to you for free, you'll get what they give you. And, I just find it's better to be demanding of what you want. That's just my experience. And then we have third-party reports. So third-party reports are the reports that, like your environmental, you're going to have to do a survey. There it is. You may have to do a survey. You're going to have to order an appraisal. Those are like third-party reports. So I budget $16,000 for third-party reports. Okay. And then I always have a line called whatever you need. And that typically, it's set right now at $150,000. So I always just figure there's got to be a $150,000 mistake somewheres in my underwriting somewheres, or something's going to happen that I didn't see. So I always put an extra $150 just in case. And that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. All right, we're almost wrapped up, so I want to go over a couple more other things in a calculator that I think you got to pay attention to. Is your assumptions, right? Your assumptions. So this is how I kind of do it. I will never say that we will ever be more occupied or vacant, right? Our max vacancy, or the best it could ever get, is 94% occupancy or 6% vacant. So we will underwrite up to a 6% vacancy, and then we also underwrite a standard 3% concession. 3% concession. So on an economic side, that's saying we're economically 91% occupancy, right? That's pretty conservative, and at least with the concession line, because we usually do a really good job of collecting money because we use ACH, and that's our portal adoptions around 98%. We usually collect all the money that we bill out for. We probably have less than a 1% collection rate on that, except for this COVID period. But normally, that line's less than 1%. But we underwrite it at 3%, and then we will titrate from a current vacancy to maybe it takes us 2 or 3 years to get to that 94% or 6% vacancy number. But that's the max that we'll ever underwrite to. I see some people that underwrite to like 95, 97%, and that's a bad idea. Don't do it that way. Just stick at 94% as the max occupancy you'll ever get, and just think about that 6% as the churn that you're just going to have to roll out. Okay, do that and you'll feel good for life. And then the other part is like your increase of income per year. And this is like where most people really mess up, is they project too big of increases in just your normal, hey, we're going to raise the rent, like your normal, cost of living adjustment for rent increase, which currently we set at 3%. Unless we're in a crazy ass market like San Antonio or Dallas or something like that, then our increase year over year is at least 4%, because those markets are appreciating much faster because of demand, okay, and lack of product on the market. That's what we're currently seeing. That's what we're underwriting. But typically it's 3% year over year. And then what we'll normally do is put a big increase, like if we're doing a big value add, we put that increase in year 2, right? So to kind of make you an example of this, if you had an $800 rent, right, that you were getting, and you're saying, hey, we're just going to renew this person, and we're going to try to get 3% rent growth, that's $24. So, you went from 800 to now 825. No one's going to leave for $25, but that's your 3% increase year over year over year over year. Now, if you did some work to the property and you were able to maybe, put some vinyl, some LVP flooring, some paint, some new fixtures, new switches or something like that, and you made it kind of, a lot more desirable, well, maybe you get that $24 bump because you're going to get that one anyways, but now you get an extra 50, so now it's 75. And so we've learned to do that in percentages. We like to see percentage increase year over year over year, or year, and that usually is in year 2, because it takes usually year 1, as you start building your plan, doing all the CapEx, you're not going to realize that bump until year 2. And we'll usually only give it, because in year 2, most of the time, we can say we've went through most of the units that we're going to fix and do that work. So we'll put our biggest increase in year 2. And that could be from, 6% to sometimes 9. 9 if it's a big rehab, 6 if it's just a micro repositioning. But we'll let our numbers tell us what that number should be, of where we're going to end up and what that difference is. And so that's how we underwrite conservatively in our business. And then the other thing that we want to talk about is just like on your expense growth for taxes, you need to make sure that's increasing 3% year over year. And then for all other expense items, like on a year-to-year basis, we grow our expense items 2%. So we're saying, and when we underwrite, we're saying, hey, things get expensive, more and more every year at 2%. And we're raising our rents every year, year over year, 3%. So we're only really saying we're making a 1% growth truly in our underwriting. Okay. And that's pretty much it, guys. There's a lot of information in all that right there. That's your basics, bare bones things that you have to know in 2021 to drive this bus. Right? I know that was a little dry. It's not me normally coming at you and getting excited. Last week's episode was a lot more thunder, a lot more fun. This is about numbers. Numbers are not always exciting, but they are absolutely necessary. You have to get good at underwriting so you can sleep like a baby, so you don't make mistakes, so you can raise a crap ton of money and feel great about it and live this lifestyle of sunsets and palm trees, right? Guys, it is up to you. You do have a choice. You can make your life great. It starts with belief. At the end of it all, it doesn't matter what I say, it's what you think that matters. So if you're gonna think and you're gonna dream big, my friend. Dream very big. Don't ever stop. If you believe it, you can achieve it. And your paradise is possible.